Hello, I'm John Davison Rockefeller. I'm remembered as the first billionaire, the founder of an oil empire, or the man whose name still graces universities, hospitals, and libraries. But if you ask me what my true advantage was, what the foundation was upon which I built everything, I'll answer without hesitation. My daily routine, my discipline, my unwavering perseverance. It wasn't luck. It wasn't special talent. It wasn't being born into privilege. This was how I lived each day, even when I didn't have a penny to my name, even when I was working to earn a few dollars a week, even when no one imagined my name would ever be known beyond my neighborhood. I want to tell you how I structured my days. Not to impress you, but to teach you what life taught me. Your habits are more powerful than your circumstances. Your discipline is worth more than your desires. Your routine is your true wealth. If you want to understand my success, you must start here, with how I faced each morning of my life. I've always been fascinated by a simple principle. The way you start your day determines the way you live your life. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter your last name. It doesn't matter your current situation. When you wake up, we are all equal. You decide whether you move forward or backward. My day began early, before most people had even lit their candles. I did this because I discovered something very simple. The first hours of the day are sacred ground. In those hours, the world is silent and your mind is untouched. It hasn't been contaminated by opinions, interruptions, or urgent matters. I got up intentionally, not out of obligation. I sat up slowly and repeated to myself, "Today I will not be controlled by my emotions. Today I will control my decisions." It may seem like a small phrase, but repeated for decades it becomes like steel in the mind. Breathing, silence, mental preparation. Before any task, I would dedicate a few minutes to organizing my thoughts. Many believe that discipline is just hard work. It isn't. Discipline begins with controlling the mind before it wanders. I did this by breathing deeply, mentally reviewing my goals for the day, and remembering the values that guided my decisions. If you want to emulate me, start here. Before picking up your phone, before checking messages, before rushing, sit down with yourself and get organized. The world will push you this way and that. If you don't control your mind early on, someone else will control it for you. Simple food, clear energy. My breakfast was simple. I wasn't looking for pleasure. I was looking for consistency. I understood very young that a heavy body creates a heavy mind. I needed clarity to make decisions that would influence thousands of workers, entire industries, and the future of my family. Small excesses destroy great visions. You choose whether your body is your tool or your obstacle. Morning walk, the most underrated practice. For many years, I started my day with a walk. Why a walk? Because movement teaches you rhythm. And life is rhythm. Thinking, acting, deciding. As I walked, I repeated questions that I used as a compass. What needs to be done today? What can I do now that will change my future? Who should I listen to? Who should I ignore? What emotion should I keep in check to decide clearly? Your mind, if left unsupervised, becomes a noisy room. But if you train it, it becomes your most valuable advisor. The walk was that training. Most people spend their time putting out fires, reacting to problems, and interrupting what they were doing. I knew that was a recipe for mediocrity. My day was divided with surgical precision. I didn't follow a schedule out of rigidity, but to avoid a silent enemy that destroys empires, constant improvisation. Let me explain how my morning routine worked. If a decision could impact Standard Oil, my investments, or the well-being of thousands of employees, it had to be made early, when my mind was sharpest. I would ask myself a key question. If I could only resolve one thing today, what would be the most powerful? That question is worth millions, because it forces you to think deeply, not react impulsively. Every morning I identified the most important decision of the day. 1, not 10, not 20. 1. And I dedicated my first few hours to analyzing it, thinking it through, and executing it. That habit created an effect that multiplied my results for decades. If you want to build a business, improve your finances, or change your life, you must learn the same thing. Start your day creating, not reacting. Lead, don't follow. Decide, don't improvise. I worked in blocks, without distractions. When I started a block of work, the rest of the world ceased to exist. Deep concentration was my most powerful advantage. I didn't work more than others. I worked better than others. I've seen thousands of men and women destroy their potential because they can't sustain their attention for more than a few minutes. They walk through life as if their own minds are hijacked. Discipline begins there. Training the mind to stay focused on one thing until it's finished. If you want to change your life, master this habit. Emotional control. The secret most people don't know. Let me tell you about something that changed my destiny more than any book, teacher, or mentor. My emotional mastery. I wasn't born with it. I built it. From a very young age, I observed that the brightest men missed out on great opportunities for one tragic reason: their lack of emotional control. They got angry. They became desperate. They became agitated when they lost money. They acted impulsively. They made decisions because their pride had been hurt. Or I learned the opposite. When your emotions rise, your intelligence falls. My daily routine had a hidden purpose: to keep my emotions under control and my mind clear, stable, and rational. I want to confess something to you. There is no extraordinary success without an extraordinarily disciplined character. Not a single one. The rule that saved me millions: never make rash decisions. If a conversation upset me, if a partner acted impulsively, if a conflict arose, I applied a single rule: wait, breathe, analyze calmly. I never made a major decision under the influence of anger, anxiety, or pride. People believe that great fortunes are built with courage. That's not true. They are built with clarity. My favorite quote: control your emotions, and you will control your destiny. Many people fail, not because they lack intelligence, but because they are slaves to their impulses. I understood that emotional discipline is not optional. It is your greatest weapon to move forward when everyone else is retreating. My daily routine was designed to keep me in this emotional state: calm, rational, precise, and focused. That state, more than oil, was my true treasure. Let me tell you something that always surprises those who study my life. My daily to-do list never had more than 5 tasks. Does that seem strange to you? Let me explain why. Ordinary people write long lists full of details, small tasks, and scattered obligations. They think that by being busy, they are making progress. They are wrong. Discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing what's essential with such high quality that the world can't ignore you. Every morning I asked myself, what 5 things can move my empire forward today? If a task didn't advance my vision, I eliminated it. I didn't allow the urgency of others to dictate my path. Successful people have a small list. Frenetic people have an enormous list. The midday reset: protecting the mind from fatigue. Many people believe that discipline means working ceaselessly without pause, without breath, without rest. That is not discipline. That is desperation. Real discipline is sustainable. Endurance wins over intensity. Consistency defeats spurts of energy. By midday, after hours of concentrated decision-making and strategic planning, I always entered a phase I call the reset. It was as important as any meeting, negotiation, or investment. Let me tell you why. Mental exhaustion destroys good judgment. You may believe you can think clearly for 12 hours straight. You cannot. No one can. The mind fatigues quietly, subtly. It whispers instead of shouts. It makes you slower, less precise, more emotional, more impulsive. And impulsive decisions cost fortunes. A single tired decision can undo months of thoughtful work. So I made it my duty, not a luxury, a duty, to reset my mind every midday. My midday ritual: silence, solitude, and stillness. It might surprise you that one of the richest men in history valued solitude more than anything else. But I did. Around midday, I would step away from everything: my office, my papers, my advisors, the noise of business, and I would find a quiet space. No one was allowed to interrupt me unless the matter was truly extraordinary. During this quiet period, I practiced stillness. Not meditation in the modern sense, but something simple and powerful: breathing deeply and letting the mind settle. I would ask myself, am I thinking clearly? Am I calm? Am I allowing emotions to influence my decisions? What problem deserves my attention next? What can I safely ignore? This mental pause sharpened my mind more than any stimulant or external tool ever could. A calm mind is capable of seeing opportunities a frantic mind will always miss. Light nourishment, heavy gratitude. My midday meal was simple, always simple. Heavy foods slow down heavy thinkers. What truly fueled me at midday was not the food, but the perspective. I often reminded myself, you were once a young bookkeeper earning cents. Do not forget it. Gratitude preserved my clarity. A grateful mind sees abundance. A resentful mind sees obstacles. If you wish to imitate my routine, imitate this principle. Stay grateful. Stay light. Stay calm. The afternoon will require the best version of you. The afternoon: execution with military precision. If mornings were for strategy, afternoons were for execution. Many young men think that ideas create wealth. They do not. Execution creates wealth. An idea without execution is a dream. Execution without precision is chaos. After my midday reset, I entered the most productive phase of my day, turning decisions into action. Let me show you how I did it. Delegation with clarity, not confusion. A great mistake of mediocre businessmen is believing that doing everything themselves makes them valuable. False. Dangerously false. If only one man can run the machine dies with the man. I learned early that effective delegation is not about removing responsibility. It is about multiplying impact. But delegation must be done correctly. So I used a rule. Explain the goal, not every step. I told my managers what must be achieved, not every detail of how to achieve it. This created initiative, independence, and loyalty. A man who understands why will perform better than one who only knows how. Afternoon checks: calm, direct, decisive. Every afternoon I reviewed progress across my operations. Not frantically, not anxiously, calmly. Like a surgeon checking vital signs. I asked precise questions. Where are we losing efficiency? Which operation is bleeding money? Which department needs reinforcement? Who is exceeding expectations? Who is falling behind for reasons that can be corrected? Which mistake must never repeat, and how do we prevent it? People respected my calmness, but make no mistake, I demanded results. You see, people do not perform well under chaos. They perform well under clarity. My routine provided that clarity. The written ledger, the habit that built my fortune. Every afternoon, I examined and updated my ledgers. This was not the job of an accountant. This was the job of a future titan. My ledger habit taught me the most important financial truth. What you track improves. What you ignore decays. I tracked everything: expenses, profits, margins, losses, trends, risks, small leaks that could grow into catastrophic failures. A man who knows his numbers knows his destiny. If you wish to build wealth, begin here. Track everything with obsessive honesty. Money responds to discipline the same way crops respond to good soil. The Rockefeller moment of study: learning as a lifetime duty. Perhaps the greatest myth about wealthy men is that they stop learning once they succeed. I never stopped. I studied every day, not out of obligation, but out of hunger. Knowledge fed my ambition. Knowledge refined my judgment. Knowledge protected me when competitors tried to deceive or outmaneuver me. My daily study session was sacred. Reading. Sharpening the sword, I read widely. Economics, agriculture, law, history, trade, science, banking, and religion. Why? Because the world is a gigantic puzzle, and every discipline offers a piece. A man who knows only his own trade is blind outside of it. Reading gave me an advantage no competitor could steal. They could copy my refineries. They could copy my prices. They could copy my strategies. But they could not copy my mind. Writing, processing thought into clarity. After reading, I wrote. Writing forces the mind to organize itself. Thoughts become sharper, ideas become cleaner, and priorities become obvious. If you want clarity, do not think more, write more. A written thought becomes a weapon. A vague thought becomes a liability. Curiosity as a discipline. Curiosity is not a personality trait. It is a discipline, a chosen behavior. Every day I asked, why does this work? Why does that fail? Who benefits from this structure? What would happen if we changed this? What is everyone overlooking? Curiosity compels you to uncover hidden opportunities, and fortunes are built on opportunities hidden from others. The evening. Reflection, family, and character. People imagine that my evenings were filled with luxury. They were not. The evening is a sacred time, not for indulgence, but for reflection and grounding. If mornings build ambition, evenings build character. Reflection, the honest self-audit. Each evening, I reviewed my day with brutal honesty. I asked myself, did I act with integrity? Did I allow emotions to control me? Did I waste time? Did I improve something today? Did I lead with clarity, fairness, and strength? A man who does not audit himself invites decay. Self-honesty is painful, but it is the fertilizer of growth. Family grounding. Spending time with my family reminded me of the truth. Success is hollow if you sacrifice character to obtain it. Strength in business must be matched by strength at home. Discipline must be balanced with kindness. Ambition must be balanced with humanity. Family purified my ambition, kept it from turning into ego. Preparing tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. Before ending my day, I always prepared the next one. This single habit is more powerful than most people realize. When you wake up knowing exactly what must be done, you begin with momentum instead of confusion. I ended every evening the same way. Tomorrow will have no surprises. I will be ready. The final rule: never break the rhythm. People often ask, how did you maintain discipline for so many decades? My answer is simple. I never broke the rhythm. Not once. Not even when I was tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. Discipline is not built on motivation. Motivation is fickle, emotional, unstable. Discipline is built on rhythm, day after day, whether I felt like it or not. Whether the world praised me or condemned me. Whether fortune rose or collapsed. Your routine must be stronger than your emotions, stronger than your excuses, stronger than your circumstances. That is how empires are built. The Rockefeller daily routine, extreme discipline. Explained. Let me continue walking you through the architecture of my day, the invisible framework that shaped the empire people love to dissect but rarely understand. The afternoon reset, my secret advantage. By midday, most men are already exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. They drift into the afternoon like a ship without a rudder. But for me, the hours after noon were the most strategically important. I used them to reset, not relax. When the clock struck 1 p.m., I performed one of my most effective habits. I stopped speaking. I would sit in silence, sometimes for only 5 minutes, sometimes for 20. No papers, no advisors, no interruptions. Why? Because silence is where judgment sharpens. Most people spend all day reacting, responding, explaining, rushing. Their minds never become still enough to see the truth beneath the noise. But I discovered that my best decisions came after I allowed my mind to empty itself of urgency. During these silent breaks, I asked myself 3 questions. What is the real priority right now? What problem am I unconsciously avoiding? What action today will matter in 10 years? These questions kept me decades ahead of my competitors. The 2 p.m. rule. The most important work of the day. At exactly 2 p.m., I returned to my desk for the single most important session of the day, deep strategic planning. No visitors, no meetings, no operational noise, only pure thinking. This is the hour when I built empires quietly. You see, most businessmen drown in operational chaos. Payroll, suppliers, complaints, schedules. They convince themselves they are busy, when in truth they are running in circles. But the most powerful work a person can do is thought. A single strategic decision, the right one, can do more than 1,000 hours of hard labor. During this hour, I mapped out new territories, analyzed future markets, and imagined what America would need 10, 20, even 50 years later. That is how Standard Oil grew. Not from hard work alone, but from thinking work done with precision. The Rockefeller method of decision-making. Let me teach you a rule I lived by. If a decision is emotional, delay it. If a decision is strategic, simplify it. If a decision is irreversible, examine it from multiple angles. When I faced a difficult choice, I never allowed instinct or excitement to take control. I separated emotion from logic as aggressively as a surgeon separates muscle from bone. Here is my exact process, the one I used for nearly every major decision. 1. Write the problem clearly. If you can't define it, you can't solve it. 2. Identify the risks, not the dramatic ones, the real ones. 3. Estimate the long-term consequences. Most men think in weeks, I thought in decades. 4. Remove ego. Pride makes men poor. 5. Act decisively once clarity appears. A delayed good decision is often worse than a fast, mediocre one. People thought I was lucky. No, I was structured. My strange habit, the disaster hour. Every afternoon, I performed a ritual no one knew about, something I now call the disaster hour. I imagined everything collapsing, the market crashing, a refinery burning down, a partner betraying us, a regulation choking our operations. While others avoided bad scenarios, I studied them. I would ask, how can I prepare for this? How can I prevent it? If it happens, what is my fastest path to recovery? This habit made me unshakable. Because when disaster came, and it always does, I had already lived through it mentally. I had plans, contingencies, and capital preserved for moments others never expected. Preparedness is a form of emotional control. The world cannot frighten a man who has already faced the worst in his mind. The evening energy shift. Where most men fail at around 4:30 p.m., the average businessman is fading. His mind slows, his patience thins, his optimism disappears. But I saw the evening differently. While the morning was for growth and building, the late afternoon was for protection and control. This is when I reviewed our financials, potential liabilities, weak points in operations, political factors that could affect us, competitor behaviors, long-term risks. My goal was simple. Grow in the morning, protect in the evening. A man who only grows collapses. A man who only protects shrinks. But a man who does both becomes unstoppable. The 6 p.m. rule, family first, always. At 6 p.m., I did something people rarely expect from me. I stepped away from business entirely. Dinner with my family was sacred, not optional, not negotiable, not interruptible. People assume I must have worked 14 hours a day. In truth, I worked with such intensity and structure that my evenings belonged to peace, not chaos. This protected 3 things. 1. Mental clarity. 2. My emotional stability. 3. My long-term stamina. A man who burns his candle at both ends soon has no light left. The night reflection, the most underrated habit. After dinner, when the house quieted, I always performed one last ritual before bed. I reviewed the day objectively, not emotionally, not judgmentally, just truthfully. I asked, did I make decisions from strength or fear today? Did I manage my emotions or did they manage me? What did I learn? What must I improve tomorrow? This final habit created consistency, and consistency creates power. A man who evaluates himself daily improves more in a year than most men do in a lifetime. My bedtime philosophy. I slept early, not because I was tired, but because rest itself is a weapon. Exhausted men make emotional decisions. Rested men make powerful ones. Before closing my eyes, I reminded myself, tomorrow I begin again, calm, strategic, and disciplined. That is the Rockefeller routine. Not glamorous, not dramatic, not chaotic, simple, structured, relentlessly consistent. And that consistency, more than talent, intelligence, or luck, is what built my empire. The Rockefeller daily routine. Extreme discipline explained. I want you to understand something essential. My routine was not just a schedule. It was a philosophy, a way of living that shaped every decision, every victory, and every empire I built. The power of structure. Why most men fail, people often ask me, Mr. Rockefeller, what separated you from the thousands of smart, ambitious men of your time? Why did you succeed when others didn't? They expect an answer like intelligence, connections, or talent. But the real answer is far simpler. Most men live reactively. I lived intentionally. They wake up without clarity. They chase tasks without priority. They go to bed without reflection. A man without structure is like a ship without a compass. He may move fast, but he goes nowhere meaningful. My routine gave me direction, and direction gave me power. The rule of control: never act in anger. One of the earliest lessons I learned in business was this: energy is expensive. Anger is the most expensive energy of all. I watched competitors explode in rage during negotiations. I saw businessmen insult their partners, rush decisions, or panic when the market trembled. Do you know what I learned from observing them? Angry men make rich men richer. Whenever emotion poisoned their judgment, opportunity opened for me. So I trained myself ruthlessly. If I felt anger, I excused myself. If I felt fear, I paused. If I felt excitement, I waited until the next day. Emotion is temporary. Consequences are not. How I controlled my emotions. The 3-minute rule. Let me give you a simple practice I used daily. Whenever I felt emotional pressure rising, frustration, tension, or sudden excitement, I performed what I called the 3-minute rule. For 3 minutes, I said nothing. I wrote nothing. I decided nothing. I simply breathed and observed. 3 minutes is long enough for emotion to weaken and short enough to prevent paralysis. This rule alone saved me millions over my lifetime. Concentration, the skill that built Standard Oil. Most people misunderstand what concentration is. They think it means working long hours. It does not. Concentration is the ability to give your full mind to a single problem without distraction. When I was young, I would sit with a ledger for hours, studying pennies. Yes, pennies. Because pennies become dollars, and dollars become fortunes. But the secret wasn't the money. It was the focus. My entire empire was built on the principles I learned doing small things with total attention. You want to grow? Then master concentration. Not multitasking, not chaos, not constant stimulation, just pure, uninterrupted focus. The art of delay. Why patience made me powerful. I practiced another habit that would frustrate impatient men. I delayed decisions intentionally. Even when I knew the answer, I often waited. Why? Because haste is the father of regret. Delaying decisions allowed several advantages. Emotion lost its influence. New information appeared. Weak options revealed themselves. Strong options remained stable. Many people think speed creates success. Speed has its place, but only after clarity. Clarity must come first. The Rockefeller Evening Standards. My non-negotiables. As the evening approached, I lived by a very strict code. These rules never changed. Not in my 20s, not in my 30s, not even in the height of my wealth. 1. No business after dinner. No matter how urgent, business ends at sunset. 2. No emotional conversations at night. Even wise men speak foolishly when tired. 3. No reviewing failures before bed. Only lessons, never regrets. 4. Light reading only. A mind must unwind to remain sharp. These evening standards protected my health and my sanity. Why I slept early, not from exhaustion, but strategy. Sleep was not a luxury for me. It was fuel. A man who is exhausted makes desperate choices, and desperate choices are expensive. So I set a rule for myself. Sleep early enough to wake with strength. Not just physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength, decision-making strength. A tired mind destroys wealth faster than a bad investment ever could. The principle of calm competence. Let me share one final principle from my daily routine. Move slowly on purpose, so you can move powerfully when required. This is what I call calm competence. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I didn't chase opportunities like a starving dog. I observed. I calculated. And when I acted decisively. This calm, steady manner gave people confidence in me. Partners, employees, bankers, politicians. When I walked into a room, they felt a presence they could trust. Not a loud man, not an emotional man, a controlled man, a disciplined man, a predictable man, a man who built every inch of his future with intention. The mindset behind the routine. Every habit I developed was based on one core belief. Greatness is not achieved in the big moments. It is achieved in the tiny disciplines of every day. The quiet hour in the morning, the silent reflection in the afternoon, the calm analysis before decisions, the strict boundary between work and family, the nightly review before sleep. This was the architecture of my life. This is how I controlled my emotions. This is how I controlled my decisions. This is how I built everything. Not with chaos, not with noise, not with frantic energy, but with discipline. Unbreakable, daily discipline. The Rockefeller daily routine. The philosophy behind extreme discipline. When people study my life, they tend to look at the large accomplishments. Standard Oil, the trusts, the reorganizations, the negotiations, the philanthropy. But what they fail to understand is that none of those achievements were the true source of my power. My strength did not come from business. It came from behavior, from discipline, from routine, from the way I governed myself. The foundation of all success, self-mastery. If you take one lesson from everything I have told you, let it be this. Before you can master money, markets, negotiations, or people, you must master yourself. Most men attempt to jump straight to the world. They chase wealth, status, and recognition while remaining slaves to their impulses. I was never interested in that kind of life. I built my fortune on the foundation of self-command. Calm, steady, measured, predictable, disciplined beyond comfort. These were my competitive advantages, and they can be yours as well, if you practice them deliberately. The routine that builds unbreakable character. A routine is not just repeated actions. A routine is the structure that shapes who you become. My routine made me a man who could stay calm under pressure, think clearly during crises, make decisions unemotionally, separate the important from the urgent, and remain unshaken when others panicked. This is the kind of man that the world follows, not because he demands respect, but because he embodies it. Why discipline is more important than talent. Many people overestimate the importance of talent. They underestimate the power of discipline. Talent helps, intelligence helps, connections help. But discipline? Discipline transforms an ordinary man into an extraordinary one. You cannot control where you were born. You cannot control the opportunities you start with. But you can control your habits. You can control your behavior. You can control your effort. Discipline is the great equalizer. It, the one. Most men work in bursts. They have moments of intense ambition, followed by long periods of distraction and decline. I did the opposite. I worked steadily, methodically, consistently. A little improvement every day, a little more discipline every day, a little more clarity every day. This is the compound interest of character. Just as money grows when you leave it undisturbed, so does discipline. The habits that prevented my fall. When you rise to G, arrogance, complacency, emotional decision-making, and the illusion that success is permanent. My routine protected me from these traps. Because I lived simply, thought deeply, and acted carefully, I never allowed my wealth to corrupt my judgment. A man who maintains discipline in small things is far less likely to fail in great things. The Rockefeller Evening Reflection. My final daily practice. Every night, before sleep, I ask myself 3 questions. Did I live today with calm and intention? Did I act in accordance with my principles? Did I improve, even slightly, from the man I was yesterday? If the answer to any of these was no, I made a plan to correct my course the next morning. This was my quiet accountability. Not to a board, a partner, or the public, but to myself. A man who holds himself accountable soon becomes unstoppable. The lesson I leave to you. I will leave you with a final truth, perhaps the most important one I learned in my 97 years. Greatness is not built in the extraordinary moments of life. Greatness is built in the ordinary moments, one disciplined day at a time. My success was not the result of genius, nor luck, nor timing. It was the result of a daily commitment to order, clarity, patience, and self-control. If you adopt these principles, if you commit to a routine that strengthens your character, then you will build a life with far more power and stability than you imagine today. I built an empire not because I was destined to, but because I trained myself to become the man who could. You can do the same. One day, one habit, one disciplined choice at a time. And when your life becomes a reflection of your highest standards, discipline will no longer feel like a burden. It will feel like freedom.